All right, welcome to the number 2 episode of the Experience Project on gear. And just like footwear was number 1, it's the most important. Number 2, we're going to talk about packs. Having a good quality pack is really important to being able to perform well on a long duration type hunt when you're dealing with a lot of hours of the day with a pack on your back, and also the potential to hike a lot of miles with heavy weight on your back. So you got meat, 100+ pound loads out of rough country, long distance. A good pack is definitely going to be worth its weight in gold for you. Obviously, we're Exo Mountain Gear. This is what we do. I'm going to try to be very generic here and talking about what to look for in a pack. So if you're not in a place where you can afford a premium pack, maybe give you some pros and cons and features to look for. There's a lot of areas where you could say that buy once, cry once doesn't apply. I think optics is a good example of that. Like, you don't have to have the best glass out there to be a successful hunter. You do need to have your footwear dialed in, and you do need to have a good pack. Like, those are the two that are really important. There's no coincidence that me as a business owner, I chose to do a backpack company because I know how important they are, and that every hunter needs a good quality backpack. So today I'm just going to talk about, in this video, try to keep it short, just kind of some of the things that I would say are an absolute must-have in a frame in order for it to perform well for you. It's not coincidence here that I don't have a bag on this. The reason a pack matters and why it's number 2 on the list is the frame. It's integration with your body, how it's going to distribute the load that's in the bag into your body, if it's going to be comfortable for you, is it going to ride well, is it going to move with you, all those things. The bag actually falls into that gear that doesn't really matter. A lot of guys get really hung up on bags. I think a lot of discussion online would be about, oh, this pack has this bag feature versus this bag feature. The reality is all that stuff's kind of ancillary. It's not that important. Whether I've got pockets or one big duffel bag, there's certainly like inconveniences and annoyances, but what bag is strapped onto the back of this will have virtually no impact on the outcome of your hunt. It's all in the frame design. That's why I spent 3 years working on the K4 frame and about 3 months working on the bags. This is what takes all the heavy lifting. This is what's interacting with your body. So, features that I'm looking for. 1, has to have at least multiple hip belt size options. If this foam isn't wrapping around the front of your hip bones, that is definitely going to lead to just lack of comfort, right? It needs to wrap around the front of the hip bones. You want as much foam contact with your body as possible to kind of help keep that load up and also distribute that load over a wider area. If it's got a really small hip belt, sometimes, if it's short or it's also squat this way, you're just taking all that load and condensing it into a smaller area, something that's just going to create more issues with you. Number 2, has to have an adjustable torso. The shoulder harness is movable up and down on the frame. If it's just fixed, or even, like the REI backpack crowd has like small, medium, and large, where the harness is sewn to the frame, but that's not gonna get you enough. You really need the ability to micro adjust the harness up and down to set to the proper torso. A pack is never going to feel right if you don't have the torso dialed in. Moving the harness up and down by 1/4 inch increments would probably be the minimum. In K4 I designed it to just every 1/16 of an inch basically. It's infinite. You go with the big settings and then you can adjust the small settings in between there. It needs to have proper frame height. The load lifter angle isn't super important in my experience. Other than it just needs to be above your shoulders enough that as you cinch this strap up, if the load is sitting on your shoulders, that it creates a little bit of a gap there, transfers the load to the front of the shoulders. So whether you've got 2 inches or 4 inches, it's not a make or break deal. Like I could go hunt with our short frame or our super tall frame. It's going to feel a little bit better on the shoulders, but as long as both of them are above the top of my shoulders, I'm getting some lift, and that's working well. The frame needs to be rigid vertically. So I can push down on this and the frame isn't buckling, it isn't barreling, isn't kind of flexing under that load. That's why like a traditional pack frame will do pretty well, assuming it's got a good belt and harness on it with heavy loads. The suspension doesn't change shape no matter what load you put on it and how heavy it gets. You need the suspension to maintain its shape and form with the load on there to maintain comfort. So if the frame is really flexible, if you can take that pack and like kind of even just flex it a little bit, to me that's a pretty good indication that it's not going to do well under load. Another aspect to the frame design is the ability not to barrel. So imagine if I had a 5-gallon bucket strapped to the back of this and I took these compression straps, wrapped it around the bucket. I don't want the frame to take the shape of that bucket. That bucket is, basically you got a boned out bag of meat, you got a hindquarter on there. You, again, while the frame is maintain its shape vertically, it also needs to do it horizontally. And if that barrels, then it's simply just going to wrap around that bucket. The center of the harness is now going to push into my back. The shoulder harness isn't contacting me properly. The potential for the lumbar pad to barrel as well. I had a pack years ago that did this. Basically, I got like a 2-inch stripe of pressure right down the lumbar pad because the whole thing was like wrapping around the hindquarter that I was packing out. Makes it terribly uncomfortable. So that's kind of it. There's not a lot of things that a frame needs to do as far as like high level features. You have multiple size hip belt options to get enough foam to cover around your the front of your hips. You do need a good lumbar pad that it's taking the brunt of the load from the pack. So to be able to absorb that and distribute it out through your lower body. You need an adjustable torso to be able to get the harness to fit properly. You need decent frame height to get some lift out of the load lifters. You need a good rigid frame and the ability not to barrel, and obviously some amount of twist built into this. I want that to move with my body and be really comfortable while I'm hunting. From there, obviously, that's where I spent 3 years dialing in, all the features, the types of foams, the shapes of the foams, the angles of everything, how the frame integrates with the hip belt, all that. That's where like all the fine tuning comes in to where you kind of start getting better and better performance out of the pack. But those are the high level features that I'm looking for in a frame design. From here, we're going to do lots of videos on how to load the pack, whether it's just your gear, whether you're putting your meat in there, how important load distribution is. We'll cover fitting, tons of videos to come on backpacks, but I just wanted to give a high level view of like what I'm looking for in a frame and its frame design, kind of take away the importance of the bag are nice, but it's not a critical aspect. So more information to come, really looking forward to it. Hope you're enjoying the experience project so far.